Hello and welcome to Boomer Bust NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. It's playoff season, it's nearly Christmas, and I'm joined tonight by Shug. We're going to cover all the usual stuff, the injuries, who we think you should start them and sit. And coming into week 16, there's just so much news to get through, so we'll get through the most important stuff. And Shug, right at the top of the show, I'd be crazy not to start with the news that Jalen Hurts is out. A complete and utter dagger to the heart of owners of Jalen Hurts that's been riding that train all season, and I've got no doubt that most of them will be in the playoffs. But how big a blow is this to them, given that I think it's a right shoulder ACL sprain? He's probably going to miss the rest of the fantasy season, so he's completely missing from the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge for fantasy owners. Obviously, they've done so well this year. It's just one of those ones that comes this time of year, and you know it could totally scupper your hopes. There is quarterbacks still about. There is people you can pick up, ways you can get lucky. A lot of movement in that areas, but yeah, undoubtedly a massive blow.
Yeah, and you sort of mentioned it there about guys to pick up. Now, it's been announced by Coach Sirianni at the Eagles that Gardner Minshew is going to start and he'll be the starting quarterback going forward.
Yep.
Is it time for MinshewMania in the fantasy football playoffs?
Again, it does depend on your league. It's undoubtedly any quarterback coming in at this stage out the cold is a risk. There's no doubt about that. But I think he could be a decent one to throw in. The only issue I have is Dallas is a tough matchup this weekend.
Yeah.
I think it's a tough one they're up against. So I'd maybe, if you don't need to go for somebody like him this weekend, I'd maybe hold off. But if you're feeling you need to pick him up just now, but keep him on your bench, stash him. I'd say that's probably the wise option. If you've got anybody else you can use this weekend. So I think it could be a tough one for him to go straight into. I think Dallas will be looking to bounce back. But he's not a bad pickup.
Yeah, and I seen you stashing earlier in our league, Brock Purdy.
Yep.
Is on your bench now. I like that pickup. I think he's a good sort of stash if you've not got anyone that's a backup for Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
But it's just a huge blow between him and Josh Allen for who's been the best quarterback in fantasy football this year in my eyes. Reliable, not injured, not missing games, just scoring points week after week after week.
Yeah.
And it's a huge blow. And for myself, as soon as Lamar Jackson went out, I picked up Jared Goff. Now, he seems to be the pick amongst folk. I know everyone was blowing the trumpet of Mike White, saying, right, pick him up, good running. Now he's injured. Zach Wilson's the backup quarterback there. I can't see many more options if I'm being really honest.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason why I picked Brock Purdy up, because it seemed like a sensible and reliable option to even stash just now. As you can see, a lot of injuries are coming about for quarterbacks, so guys like Brock Purdy are going to be hard to come by now that are consistently starting, consistently putting decent enough points up. So that's why I felt the need to put him in. But I think the options are running out due to, as I said, the amount of injuries. So if you can get a decent one in, stash them.
They're all at it. They just want Christmas Day off.
100%. You'd do the same, wouldn't you?
Oh, we've seen that. We've seen this movie before. It's like Neymar and our sort of British football. Every year seems to be injured around about his sister's birthday. Now that's a wee bit fruity to me, but
that's a different story.
but a guy we've not mentioned, a quarterback we've not mentioned, Nick Foles, is going to start for the Colts this week, in ahead of I always forget his name, Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Does he become fantasy relevant for me? Not really, because he just kind of sits in the pocket, doesn't run. He is a guy that just fills in and does well wherever he goes, but he doesn't really do unbelievable.
Yeah, again, I feel similar about him. I don't think he's somebody I'd be relying on. He's never going to be a standout for you, is he?
Nah.
Think there's better options around the league, to be honest with you.
I know, and I'm thinking there as well. Let's see who's their matchup this week. The Colts this week up against the Chargers. The Chargers are going to be playing for a playoff place. The Colts have got nothing to play for. No Jonathan Taylor. It's just a bit of a damp squib for me.
It's different when you go into a team that's flying. They're doing well. they've got a stacked offense that you think they can get away with another average quarterback statement. Similar to Brock Purdy, a reliable guy coming in, but he's got plenty of options, plenty of players to hit. For me, Nick Foles doesn't really fall into that category.
Nah, and he's they've just when they've got nothing to play for as well, it puts me off a bit as well. I look around the league and there's coming into playoff season, there's hardly any quarterbacks that I'd be touching.
Yeah.
Looking around at it as well. But another guy as well that's now out for the season, Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Now, Malik Willis is going to come in as a backup there, who is a very good prospect, was picked up a lot later in the draft than folk expected. Is he even a guy that would be chapping the door that if you're really, really struggling, then Malik Willis could be the man?
I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about him. But I would expect he goes in there. I don't expect it to be throwing a lot. As kind of a lot of times when quarterbacks come in at this stage, untested quarterbacks, I think he'll be probably looking to just get the ball to Derrick Henry. So,
Well, this is what I was going to come to. Given the weather conditions and given that it's not Ryan Tannehill at quarterback, it's really going to play into the hands of Derrick Henry.
yeah.
Now, it looks like it's going to be Texans at the Titans. In Tennessee, it looks like it's going to be 5 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right.
Which was unbelievably cold. So you can see them, especially the Texans, again in the same bracket as the Colts. Not really much to play for at all. Pretty banged up as well. Derrick Henry is going to run all over them.
Yeah. Yeah,
100%.
But
does this deter guys from playing wide receivers that they do have at the Titans? The likes of guys like Robert Woods, who you probably would be deterred against playing anyway?
Yeah. Yeah, again, it would really put you off them. You don't really see them as reliable options anyway. But as I said, I think they'll. I don't think they'll look to throw the ball a lot. I think it'll be I think it plays right in, as you said, Derrick Henry's hands. So for me, quarterbacks, wide receivers, you'd be staying away from there.
I just can't see it being a good weekend for wide receivers, given the weather conditions in most places. In America just now, it looks like a real cold snap is going to hit across the country, and there has, even just coming in, injury latest, let me see what we've got here as well. Najee Harris back to full practice, which is a good thing. On the other side, Deontay Johnson misses another practice for the Steelers. Damien Harris and Ramondre Stevenson both listed as questionable for the weekend. And another big one, for me especially, Kenneth Walker is now listed as questionable for this weekend.
Yeah.
That's a sore one for the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Because when we do say that, Tyler Locket is now out for the season. He's going to have to go under the knife. Do we see anybody at the Seahawks that can fill his shoes there, Shug? I mean, I'm looking around and the guy that seems to be getting picked up a lot is Marquise Goodwin. I know he had a pretty solid week a few weeks ago and he's done okay from there, but would you say he'd be a solid pickup or would you be looking elsewhere?
I think he's a solid pickup, to be honest with you. The only issue could be I think he's been struggling a bit with injuries as well. I might be wrong on this, but I think he might be still listed as questionable for this weekend.
Let me have a wee look, see if I can see him.
But if he plays, I think it's a decent option.
Yeah. For me, I'm looking around. He's got a good matchup. He is listed as questionable, wrist, ankle. I don't know how that's connected. Maybe he was doing that breakdancing thing where you hold like your ankle and do it like a skipping rope and he's stood in the both of them. So he's going to have to overcome 2 injuries to make week 16. But I'm looking around and one of the most favourable pickups this week is KJ Osborne. Now, he seemed to see, I think it was 14 targets last week. High scoring game. He's starting to see more targets than Adam Thielen at the Vikings. But another guy who is completely on fire just now, he's one of your guys, Zay Jones.
Yeah.
For me, if he's out there in your league or you've had the chance to pick him up and play him ahead of Tyler Lockett, he's the guy. You're riding the hot hand there. He's on fire right now. And for me, Zay Jones, KJ Osborne, they're the type of guys I'd be looking to play ahead of Marquise Goodwin. The other thing as well, Shug, at the Seahawks, Noah Fant at tight end. Now, tight ends are becoming as scarce as the quarterbacks just now. Can you see even him being a good option? I know he scored a touchdown last week, scored good points.
A decent shout. That was one I was possibly thinking about my startums for this week. So if he's available in the league, yeah, he's a decent option to go about. As you said, tight ends it's been very unpredictable with him this season. He's not a bad shout.
Yeah, I'm looking here. He's questionable as well. He's got a knee injury. He's listed as questionable, but last week he's available in a lot of leagues. For a tight end, 14.2 points from 6 targets. Now, you'd imagine his targets go up given that Tyler Lockett's missing now. Well, his season's over, so I think he'd be a solid pickup for anyone in the playoffs that's struggling their tight ends. Noah Fant, to me, looks like a good pickup, but keeping with tight end, Shug, and I also seen that you picked this guy up.
Mm-hmm.
Last night on Twitter, it went a bit mad. Rob Gronkowski tweets, "I'm kinda bored," with an emoji, boredom face.
Yeah.
Right away, look to waivers. Who's picked him up? You, straight off the...
On the pulse there. I don't know. I don't know what to read into this. I don't know where he'll end up. Usually when I do this, they don't end up signing for anybody. So I just thought my bench is getting no points at the moment. My starting team is doing unbelievably well, but on my bench I very rarely pick up any. So I thought, why not? Why not throw him in there? And if he ends up going somewhere, great.
That's it. It's Gronk at the end of the day. He's like one of the greatest tight ends in the history of the NFL, and it's like, can we see a curveball here? Maybe maybe it's not the Bucks he goes to. I just can't see him not playing with Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's a strange one. It's just out of nowhere this time of season. I honestly don't know. I'm with you. I don't know if I could see him playing anywhere apart from with Brady.
Or he could be trolling.
Aye, it could just have been, I'll put this out, get a bit of attention.
I know. You don't know what he's up to. He seems to do all right for himself outside the NFL. Remember, he became the 24/7 champion at WrestleMania.
I just feel as if sometimes NFL players love to do this. I mean, like say Big Sue the other week that we were talking about with his thing about his pre-match ritual. They like to say something, have everybody guessed, and then just turns into just it was a laugh. So I wouldn't be shocked if he was just trolling.
I know. Oh, I do think it's quite funny when they do that, because folk go crazy, the internet goes crazy, and they can't get a grip of it. But let's see if there's any other injury news looking around the league. Guy, will move on to the second half of the show. Marquise Brown was limited today. Oh, here's another one. Jarvis Landry has been placed on IR. Now, what's significant about this is that Chris Olave has also been ruled out this weekend.
Oof.
So the Saints are down to the bare bones. I'm trying to think. Backups there. Is it Juwan Johnson's the tight end there, I think. He'd be a decent pickup there.
Kamara's value goes up quite a bit for this week as well.
100%. 100%.
Not that he would ever... Not that you wouldn't think of starting him or anything, or not that there's any leagues that he'll be available, but for owners of Kamara, you're probably rubbing your hands together at
that. Who's got him in our league?
Drew.
Oh, I always think it's... Why do I always think it's you?
I did have him. I done that trade with CMC. I got CMC.
So you did. Well, right. So I've got a quick question for you here before we go to the break, right? Okay. So the late game the other night, obviously the Raiders one that we spoke about that went a bit wild. The Raiders scoring a touchdown what looked to be out of bounds. They then come back in the dying seconds. Jacoby Myers throws an interception. The Raiders go up the field and score for a walk-in touchdown. Right, so something happened in this game, right? Mac Jones threw a ball which ended up intercepted. Right. Okay, I think the Raiders went on to score in this drive, and it looks like it's changed the complete trajectory of the whole season of the Patriots. Now, I'm going to ask you, what has now been discovered since this happened, and it has now changed the complete pathway of the season for the Patriots? Can you think anything off the top of your head that happened when he threw that ball for it to become intercepted?
It's obviously going to be something crazy. I'm going to say something.
Don't answer just yet.
Hey, I was wondering when you were going to say that.
Right in the tip of your tongue there. But no, Shug, it's our last show before the big hairy guy comes with his sack. And on the context of being hairy and big sacks, it would be wrong not to thank our sponsors this week, and that's Manscaped. Santa might need a wee bit of Manscaped, I'll tell you that for free. But it's never too early to play holiday music, and it's never too early to start thinking about gifts. Whether it's for your friend or the friends in your pants, you can make this a season to be jolly with Manscaped. Do your little drummer boy a favour and use a Lawnmower 4.0 to avoid another silent night in the bedroom. Then add in Manscaped's top-of-the-line shower products to have the people thinking, all I want for Christmas is you. Santa cares about his sack, and so should you. Look nice when you get naughty by going to manscaped.com and use the code BOOMERBUS20 for free shipping and 20% off. Now, Shug, I know it's a wee bit late in the day for gifts and stuff, and folk probably won't get it now before Christmas, given that it's only a couple of days away while we're recording this. But it's definitely one of these gifts you could buy and say, okay, there's been mail strikes, it's not came in time, but you'll get it, you'll definitely get it. Quality product, isn't it?
Oh, top class.
We can certainly vouch for it, given that both of us have been using the products, and even the boxers are just so comfy. And we know that Christmas is a time for boxers, pants, socks. We can guarantee this is a top quality product. So make sure to get 20% off and free shipping with the code BoomerBus20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code BoomerBus20. Manscaped, get your jingle balls ready for the holidays. And a big well done to anybody that gets one of them as a gift, I promise. And if you do, make sure to write in, because it will back up exactly what they're saying. It is a top quality product, the guys at Manscaped do. Anyway, Shug, before the break, I asked you the throw from Mac Jones, which led to be intercepted, which has changed the trajectory of the Patriots season, had an unusual sort of sequence of events for it to be intercepted. What was your answer?
I'm honestly stumped. I'm going to say somebody was on the field that shouldn't have been, or something from the crowd.
Yeah, you're miles. You're absolute miles. So what actually happened was, the sky cam, which floats above the players and it gives a sort of right in-depth angle.
Yep.
So the ESPN Skycam that's got the wires that controls where it goes all over the field, it clipped one of the wires, which sent the ball off a trajectory and into the wrong hands. I think this is the most I've ever said that word. And led to it being intercepted. Nobody knew at the time, and I think looking back at replays, you can see that the spin of the ball actually changes. Crazy how these things work out.
How that can affect your full season.
It's nuts, but end of the day, just go and win games.
I know.
Easy for us to say. It's thin margins. But we'll look ahead to the game, Shug, and we'll look at matchups. And when I look around, it's quite scarce. There's not a lot of solid matchups, but I've tried to take the weather into consideration with everything I've looked at here. And one guy I really like, and he's on your team, is Devin Singletary. I really like his matchup this week. Because of the temperature in Buffalo, it's going to be in Celsius minus 23. We've already mentioned it on the show. This doesn't make for good throwing conditions.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very cold. They're going to be heavy on the run. And that Bears defense are 24th in the league against the run. Now, the Bears as well don't have much to play for. So for me, Devin Singletary becomes an automatic starter. That doesn't mean for a second I'd go dropping guys like Stefan Diggs and, well, Dawson Knox in your case, but I'm not I'm going to be dropping Gabe Davis, but that's down to other reasons that it's just not been happening for weeks for him. But Devin Singletary for me becomes a starter, no doubt about it. I think he's been solid enough this season for you, hasn't he?
Yeah, and especially when, as you said, when it comes to games like that, he's reliable, runs the ball. He's he never comes up with huge points for me, but he's always decent. So I think you're bang on with that.
he's steady. He's one of the guys you can always rely on. He's always going to bring you a sort of 15 to 20 point range, but he slides under the radar a wee bit, and he's had a steady season in what is a team absolutely littered with talent in their offense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what about you? Is there anyone you're liking the matchup of this week?
I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence to start at quarterback.
Big Trev?
Big Trev. I think we spoke about him last week. Bang on form, but just as we've started the show, I've read up and he's actually questionable. So,
Oh, God.
So my dust could have struck again. But nah, he's one of these guys that I think he's really hitting form now. And I think it's going to continue this weekend. I think he's looking good. He would be on my team.
It's kind of like he's now found his feet. It's took him a while, hasn't it? But you're now seeing sort of the fruits of his labour with guys like Zay Jones coming up with huge points, Christian Kirk doing well there as well. I think he's really starting to establish himself as a top quality quarterback.
Yeah.
You look around the league, guys that are putting up, I think it was 33 points they put up at the weekend there. They're staggering figures, they're unbelievable.
And he's up against the Jets, which I don't think it's a bad matchup, to be honest.
It's not. Let me see what they are against the quarterback. They're number 8 against the quarterbacks, but the Jets recently, they've been blowing hot and cold. But in terms of Trevor Lawrence, let's see, last week I said 26.82 points, week 14, 33.4. He's really starting to hit form, and I like the Jags. They tend to score a lot of points. They're brave with their plays, and I agree with you, Lawrence. Excellent matchup. Let's see, he's questionable for Thursday's game. Oh, it's tonight. It's tonight's game, so we'll get this out as soon as we finish, so it doesn't become out of date too quickly. But it's a left foot injury, so. Oh, sorry. News just in. He's been cleared to play, so there you go. No Shuggy curse. No Shuggy curse. But where else are you looking in the league? What else are you liking the look of this weekend?
I'm going to go with, it's a wee bit of a reacher, a wee bit of a gamble, but I'm going to go with Chris Moore.
Right, okay.
It's one of those ones that could actually blow up, but as we said, we don't pick the obvious ones. So for me, the Texans are struggling with injuries, which means he'll see a lot of targets. Didn't have a good weekend last week, but he'll still receive those targets this weekend, and I think you could see a big improvement there. In future weeks, I wouldn't have him in there. I think this is not sustainable. But if you're looking for a wee one on the outside, he might not be a bad shout.
If you're really stretched. And this is one of the things, this is why you finished second and you've got a bye this week, because these wee pickups where you've rolled the dice and took the gamble, and in his case, would you say he's going to get more and more targets?
That was not bad for you.
That's Christmas after all. I thought I'd bring out the best. I like the sound of it. The Texans, it's a season to forget for them.
Yeah.
I know we joke about him, but what does Rex Burkhead need to do to pick up points?
Oh, nah, he's done, and he's there for team morale.
He must be good around the dressing room or some sort of leader, and it's absolute dross.
He's majorly struggling.
I know, but like you there, looking around the league and stuff, I'm going to go for a bit of a curveball as well, and I'm taking a leaf out of your book from last week's show. Starting wise, I'm looking at the Bucks D, right? And the reason I say this, the Cardinals are down to QB3 and Trace McSorley. And to be fair, the Bucks defense, okay, they're in a poor run of form, but I really can't see the Cardinals doing much at all. Their season's pretty much finished. Kyler Murray's out for as long as we can think of. And I can just see QB3 coming in like a rabbit in the headlights. Trace McSorley, we know, is not a great quarterback. I think the Bucks D are going to be sacking him and picking him off all day long.
Yeah, hard to disagree with that one.
And the Bucks as well, like right on the cusp of the playoffs. They're in a heavily poor division, but they can still make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd be looking at that Bucks D. They'll be out to make a point. And the other thing with the Cardinals, and this guy's going to be my first sit for this week, Marquise Brown has not been firing whatsoever.
Yeah.
He started the season like a house on fire, and I think with DeAndre Hopkins coming back in, he started to see less targets. He started to put less points on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at it even more recently, he's had 8 targets in his past 2 weeks. That's each week, 16 all in total. Last week he scored 5.9 points. The week previous, 7.4 points. This isn't the same numbers Marquise Brown was picking up the first half of the season. He's really went downhill, and I think he's struggling with injury as well. So you're probably going to see a poor week for Marquise Brown. By all means, if you're really struggling at wide receiver, play him. You never know. But 2 things. I love that Bucks D, and I'm just not loving Marquise Brown too much at all at the moment.
Yeah, you're probably right. He's not in good form just now at the moment. And just, as you said, with Kyler Murray out, they're just not firing, are they?
No, not at all. And once again, poor season for the Cardinals. They've been poor all year, and it's just not happened for them at all compared to the season they had last year, which I thought they were an exciting team to watch. This season, just nothing's really went right for them whatsoever. But who are you not really liking the look of, Shug?
I'm going to sit Jacoby Myers.
You're looking at me here.
I think it's probably the easiest decision you'll get. I think. Listen, you never know. He could bounce back. I think it was always a horrible low point in his career last week. And just in recent times, I think I was reading the last five games, he's put up single figures. So he's a guy that's low in confidence, not in form. Started off the season very well, but he's not great just now. I would not be relying on him this weekend, to be honest.
Nah, you wonder as well, playing under Bill Belichick, you see a lot of things where like guys commit like fouls and there's flags and you don't tend to see them the rest of the game.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a hard taskmaster, and we know that, and you just don't know if the knife's going to fall on Jacoby Myers this week, and he's going to see a lot less targets. That's my only worry. But once again, I might be left with no choice because I've got 6 injured players on my bench, and I think I'm going to have to make a decision there on who to cut. But picked up KJ Osborne, and we'll see how that goes. And fingers crossed. But anyone else you wouldn't be looking to start this week?
The other one I've went with is Curtis Samuel, up against the 49ers, which will be a tough matchup. I just don't see him getting the targets. I think you've got Dotson in there, you've got Terry McLaurin in there. I think they'll probably pick up points ahead of him, pick up opportunities ahead of him. So he's one for me I would be avoiding.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. I've dropped him this week completely. Like I just said there, I picked up KJ Osborne, and he was the player that got the cut. But looking at the Giants game last week, the G-Men won, obviously. We're looking to get into the playoffs now. Pretty much ends the Commanders' chances of being in the playoffs. But everyone was talking about Terry McLaurin in that game. He had a great matchup against a banged-up corner in the Giants. Didn't happen with McLaurin. Didn't happen with Samuel. It looked like Dotson was the man there. So you're right. It looks like he's fell to third in that pecking order. So I wholeheartedly agree with you. And another wide receiver I'm not really liking the look of, Amari Cooper. He has been terrible since Deshaun Watson took over at quarterback. Now, this week, I'm just not fancying him at all, right? He has not scored more than 10 fantasy points in a game since week 12. Yeah. We're now into week 16. Slightly struggling with a hip injury, and his targets are starting to decrease as well with Watson at quarterback. He's went from 9 targets to 7 targets and then 6 targets last week. I mean, that's not good production for wide receivers, especially a guy like Amari Cooper, who you should be able to count on.
No, and again, there could be some minutes, especially somebody like Deshaun Watson coming in. But as we spoke about earlier, very difficult in normal circumstances for a quarterback to come in this stage of the season and there not to be some sort of disruption, struggling to find the rhythm. Relationships not quite the same, so it could be partly that.
Yeah, the flip side of that is Donovan Peoples-Jones looks to be his favourable target there, so that is maybe one to watch. But then again, we've not got many weeks left in fantasy football. 1 for some folk, 2 for others after this week, so that's pretty much it for the start and sit and Shug. But assume we'll look back over the course of the season, given that there isn't that many weeks left. Who's been your biggest surprise package for this season? As in, when I say that, when we spoke in pre-season leading up to the podcast starting, we were given a sort of, here's the guys you need to go for, here's the guys you need to avoid.
Yeah.
Who's the ones that slid under the radar that you've been like, my God, not one has mentioned them?
I don't know if none of us mentioned them, but I just felt as if we had very little talk around the Eagles pre-season.
Yeah.
I know the injuries came about to Jalen Hurts, but I feel like none of their players really got a lot of kind of airtime from myself. Maybe you mentioned them a few times, a few of them, but I certainly didn't really. I think they slipped on the radar there. Miles Sanders, AJ Brown, guys like that, I think have an outstanding season. So I would say probably them. The other consideration I had for, in general, people kind of underestimate how well they were going to do was Tua and Hill. Not because, obviously in Hill's case, not because he was an unknown quantity, but the move to Miami and obviously the big doubts over Tua. So those are the other two. But I would say, for me, I would say probably just around the Eagles and their star players.
Because everybody spoke about the Cowboys in this division.
Yep.
And you're right, the Eagles, but for me, and I think it's a very obvious one, it's the Seahawks, and in fantasy football terms, Geno Smith especially. He's put up solid numbers. Folk probably the majority of folk that have got Geno Smith picked him up off waivers.
Yeah.
We spoke in pre-season consistently of, right, the Seahawks need to pick up a quarterback who is X named quarterback, and it was obviously Jimmy Garoppolo. Everybody was talking about at the time, or would they pick up someone else?
Yeah.
Nobody gave Geno Smith a chance. Now you've now seen the emergence of guys like Kenneth Walker. You've seen Tyreek Woolen come through as well. Tyler Lockett's played well. DK Metcalf's come into his own. And the thing is, as well, they've got the Broncos' first round pick of next season as well. So it just shows guy like Russell Wilson not kind of rotting the boat there and wanting to get out, and they've moved them on, and they've turned their draft picks into a solid team. And for sure, next season they're going to be in there and thereabouts. They're a good side, and I've been very, very surprised by them.
I agree with you. I think both of us kind of wrote them off a wee bit at the start of the season. Just said, as you said, with the quarterback issue, I think because we'd seen guys like, we said, how are they going to replace guys like Chris Carson, who was a big player for them before.
Yeah.
We just didn't really see where it was coming from. But when you rhyme the names off, you looked at it now and you're like, that is a solid team. And they've obviously proven that throughout the season.
Yeah, and good on them. They're a likeable team, but
Aye.
we'll not hang about too long, Shug. It's nearly Christmas, and if you behaved yourself this year, what have you asked for?
I've tried to.
A playoff win?
A few bits and bobs, but we'll see.
a few Links Africa sets, but do you know what I'm liking? I see on the Instagram stories of some of the NFL players. I seen that Patrick Mahomes, obviously one of these ones, but it's in association with TaylorMade. He got all the Chiefs players at new golf clubs.
Class.
Bag the lot. It was pretty cool. But what I seen there, I think it was in Gabe Davis's Instagram story. Isaiah McKenzie got every one of the players their very own personalised arcade.
Right.
You've got to go and look at this. I don't know who else's Instagram it's on, but it was on Gabe Davis's. Every one of them got an arcade machine. I'm trying to think if I've seen any of the other ones. There's been a few, but it's just crazy the money that goes around with these folk, isn't it?
Unreal.
If only we get close to that, eh?
Too right. That'd be a good Secret Santa.
It would. But no, thank you to everybody that's listened. Thank you to everyone that's watched. As always, if you can like this, if you can share it, and very mostly if you can subscribe, just keep coming back to us. We really appreciate it, don't we, Shug?
Aye, 100%. And to all our listeners, have a good Christmas.
Yeah, have a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you maybe just after Boxing Day. We'll see how much drink we consume over the holiday period. But thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.